In this lesson, we're going to refine the movement functionality. Alright, so let's jump right back into the script. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to change the function that we're using for the movement. Now we're going to be moving based on physics, so using the update function isn't going to be the best solution, as it can get the physics off sync, if you will. It's much more stable if we used a fixed update for this. So we're just going to go ahead and type that in there. Now, in the last lesson, we had our moving forward and backward. But if you'll remember, we were able to move forward at the same rate as moving backward. And we want the reverse speed to be a little bit slower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a simple if statement. So we're going to say if input.getAxis, and we're going to say the vertical axis. And we want to compare that to something, so we're going to say if the vertical axis is greater than 0.0, meaning if it's a positive value, we want to do this. Okay, so I want to move forward based on speed. Okay, and you can see that set here. Now if, let's go ahead and set this here, if input.getAxis, and in the vertical direction still, is less than 0.0, meaning if it's a negative number, so if we're pressing the S key, our move direction is going to be based on reverse speed. So let's just take this code right here, hit Control-C and Control-V to paste that in, and let's just change this variable. So we're going to say reverse speed. Make sure that it's spelled exactly the same as up here. And if you're using C#, you'll see that if you just left click in one of these variables, it'll highlight letting you know that what it's associated to. Alright, so there we have that. And now if we save this and we go into Unity and we hit play, you'll notice that we can move very quickly, but then if we hold the S key, it's not going quite as fast as the other way. So you can see the acceleration is very, very quick in the forward direction. So now what we want to do is we want to get in and we want to start working on the turn direction as well. So the turn direction is going to be done exactly the same way as the move direction. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to hit Control-C, and then down below, still inside of the if statement, I'm going to hit Control-V. And I'm going to change it from move direction to turn direction. And I'm going to change it from the vertical buttons to the horizontal buttons. And we're going to multiply that by turn speed. And make sure that that variable is spelled correctly. Okay, so exactly the same here. And then instead of using the rigid body add relative force, we're going to use add relative torque. Okay, now torque, what it's going to do is it's going to rotate your object based on rigid bodies. So let's type that in, torque, and then tell it what axis to actually use. Now in this case, we want to rotate around the Y axis, not the Z axis. So let's remove that, and let's say turn direction, and you can hit enter and it will fill that in automatically, and then we'll do comma 0. Let's do the same thing down here, Control-C, and let's just go ahead and paste it down below, Control-V. So turn direction, input get axis, horizontal, multiply that by turn speed, and adding the relative torque, and everything looks great. Now, one thing that we're going to have an issue with is in reverse, the turn direction is going to be swapped backward. So what I mean by that is whenever you are driving in reverse, if you want the tail to turn to the left, you need to actually steer the wheels to the left. And so what we want to do is we want to make this a negative number to get that functionality properly. So now let's save this and let's go into Unity and let's test it out. So if we're moving forward, looking good, and then if I hit the S key, you'll see that everything's turning as it should, and we're looking good. Now one thing that I'm noticing is if I just hold down the D key or the A key, it's not turning. Now the reason for that is because of the if statement that we have. So to look at that, if we go into MonoDevelop, you can see that if the vertical button is pressed and it's in a positive value, we can turn. Now if these are not pressed, we are not able to access that turn direction. So if we want to be able to do this, we want to take this outside. Okay. Now that's going to pose another issue a little bit later, and so we're going to keep it in there for right now. So what I want to work on right now is slowing the car down. Okay. So looking inside of Unity, if we hit the W key, it's going very, very quickly, and it doesn't decelerate. It's acting like there is absolutely no friction on this car. So we're driving on ice at this point. Now a very quick way to make some adjustments to that is working with the rigid body. So if I take my drag up to 1, notice what happens. If I press the W key and then release it, notice that it's slowing down much faster. So now we're getting a little bit of weight to our car. Now with the angular drag, as you can see here, that's going to give you friction on the rotation. So let's set that to 1 as well. Now if I go forward, you'll see that it slows down, and then if I turn to the right, it slows down. It doesn't allow me to turn quite as fast. Okay, so we're starting to get that movement that we're looking for out of like a dirt track racing. So I wanted to use this type of racing model because it can be very, very fun. It's very challenging for the player, first off, to just maneuver the track. And then you have to maneuver to pick up power-ups, pass cars, and there's just a lot of dynamics to it. So we're going to be using that type of functionality, and we're going to be refining that as we go. Now with dirt track racing, the car can be moving very, very quickly. And as it's going into a turn, because there's so much velocity on the car, it's going to do a lot of sliding. And so what you see with dirt track racing is counter steering and acceleration in the turns to get the car to move throughout the turn. So it's a whole new driving experience if you want to think of it that way. So in order to make this as easy to drive as possible, we want to start adjusting the drag and the angular drag based on the current speed of our car or the velocity of our car. And so what we're going to do in our next lesson is we're going to start tying all of that together and creating that functionality.